So lots of folks are saying that Game of Thrones is this climate change metaphor, but they're missing this whole piece about industry. But I think they're missing this really key point. The fossil fuel industry has really fueled climate change and really undermined people understanding the threat of climate change. So in Game of Thrones terms, this would be like the Lannisters actually knowing the whole time that the White Walkers existed, but because it got them more wealth, they've undermined all the stories of the White Walkers. They've told everyone, no, this is an old myth. It's not real, it's a nursery rhyme, and they've really sowed doubt so that Westeros is in terrible danger. That's what has happened on climate change. We've had this group who has known all along of the danger and made sure the rest of us don't. So in the 1990s, the American Petroleum Institute, the largest oil trade association in the US, created a roadmap of how to make sure that governments didn't act on climate change. And one of the key ways of doing that was to make sure that the public didn't understand the threat. I'm gonna read you a direct quote from that roadmap. "Victory will be achieved when average citizens understand uncertainties in science. Recognition of uncertainties becomes part of the conventional wisdom." This was at a time when these companies and their scientists were already well aware of the catastrophes of climate change, and they were already making internal decisions based off of the possibility of climate change. So they started designing their infrastructure with the possibility of sea level rise in mind. Companies like ExxonMobil didn't just undermine the science of climate change, they also undermined the public's belief that they could do anything about it. They undermined the belief that climate change was solvable. Can you imagine having a profit model that requires you to make people, children, feel helpless in one of the greatest threats humanity has ever faced? The very first thing that you can do on climate is vote. The second thing that you can do is get other people to vote. You have actually an incredible influence over your community. So if you get 5 or 10 people to vote on climate, that's incredibly powerful. And then I'm calling on all storytellers out there, right? We all kind of need to be this Jon Snow, kind of telling everyone about the danger of the White Walkers and telling everyone that there's still hope, that we can band together and take this on. So I'm thinking of how Greta Thunberg is bringing together millions of young people. We're seeing especially young people and Indigenous people around the world step up and fight these narratives. We need your stories. We need you to rebuild with us that we can take this on, that we can take this on together, that we must take it on, that it's urgent, and that we have to center justice in that conversation. But really making sure that we know who has created the threat and how they've made everyone else paralyzed in that process. When you feel helpless on climate change, when you feel like it will be impossible to act, when you feel like only incremental options are possible, think that that narrative was most likely seeded by the fossil fuel industry. Remember it, and then try to push back against it.